So, so we're just now finishing today Purim of Jerusalem, right? Purim the Mukafin, Shushan Purim. And we know that the halacha, that 30 yom, קודם הפסח, שואלים ודורשים בהלכות החג 30 yom. So we're now in 30 days before Pesach. So the most appropriate thing is to start learning the halachot of Pesach. And we learned last year, if I remember correctly, we learned about bdikat chametz, checking chametz. So we won't learn it again this time because we learned it already in the past. But we will mention a halacha from bdikat chametz that the same as learning the halachot of Pesach starts 30 days before Pesach. Also, bdikat chametz, the obligation to check chametz starts 30 days before Pesach. So, for example, if a person leaves his house, okay, if he leaves his house, is and inside the 30 days before before Pesach, so he needs to check his house. He needs to do bdikat chametz because we're
Mm.
now already getting close for Pesach. Getting close to Pesach. I know some people get nervous. Wow, Pesach, what do we do now? And why do you have all of the mishlochim manot just before Pesach? And then what do you do with all of it? Yeah, so someone say, why do you need it before Pesach? Maybe I said it's a joke, so the kids have what to eat because before Pesach already now you can't eat anything before Pesach because it's so the kids have snacks to eat. That's not the real reason. The real reason actually is that Purim, it's the still about for Purim, but Purim is very, very much tied to Pesach, and we can see it in at least two aspects. Okay, that's maybe more learning about Purim, but since it is tied to Pesach, so first we in the Megillah we read the Megillah. When does Haman have this the poll or the raffle? When does he have it? He does it on Chodesh Nisan. So part of the story, maybe even perhaps almost all the story or the main drama of the story happens around Pesach. So there is a very, very big connection between Purim and Pesach because a lot of the drama happens around Pesach. And another thing, the Gemara in Megillah discusses what happens when you have 2 months of Adar. Okay, when you have 2 months of Adar, what what do you do? When do you celebrate Purim? So we know, obviously, we said celebrate Purim on the month closer to Pesach. But why do we celebrate on the month closer to Pesach? Maybe one should say, do the mitzvah as soon as possible. You get to the first Adar, do the mitzvah as soon as possible, and afterwards do the mitzvah on the first Adar. And the reason the Gemara gives is to connect the two geulot, the two redemptions. There's the redemption of Purim, there's the redemption of Yitzhak Mitzrayim, and both of them should be tied with each other. Maybe also it comes to teach us the fact that the redemptions are tied with each other. Going out of Egypt was a redemption in order to go to the land of Israel. When we started the process of 40 years to go into the land of Israel. And Purim, maybe one might think, we were saved, but we can still continue living in Shushan. We can still live in New York. We can still live in Germany. We can still live wherever we want to. We have a good life here. Yeah, why should we move to the land of Israel? And the fact that Chazal wanted to tie the two holidays, the two miracles, two redemptions together to teach us, yes, there's redemption. You were saved, but there's Pesach. And Pesach you'll be
Mm.
seeing Leshana Haba'a B'Yerushalayim Habnuya. Right? It's not just a text you read there, but it is Leshana Haba'a B'Yerushalayim Habnuya. We're praying that we'll come to Israel. So
Mm.
we are happy now to be living in Israel. And when you think about it, it's crazy that it's maybe one of the only states that is in a war and the airports are closed and the country is doing a special missions to sending airplanes to bring people back to the war zone because they want to be in Israel, they want to be at home. That's the house of the Jewish nation. That's the amazing things we see on these days. Anyway, so we said we were learning about Pesach, about getting ready for Pesach, and although we learned the halachot of checking chametz last year, I just we
Rabbi,
mentioned the
excuse me,
halacha.
Rabbi,
Yeah, yeah,
one other thing, there's a connection between Purim and Pesach,
yeah.
is that after both Geulot and we were saved in both instances, we both had a Mekabel of Torah.
Right.
We both had a a Torah that we were accepting. One was at Har Sinai after, of course, Yetziat Mitzrayim, and the other one was in Purim after we kibel et Torah b'chazara. Kol
It's
Torah
true.
we.
Yeah. You can actually that's a true point, and maybe it connects also to again to the land of Israel, because obviously Mitzrayim brought us to Israel and to Mount Sinai, which Mount Sinai, that's a different shiur we gave in the past, has some aspect of Israel in it. And if you look at in Purim the same, if you look at the wider history, so Purim in the end helped the Jewish nation go back to Israel or continue making Aliyah and continue strengthening Jerusalem, but that's a longer, more of a longer Shir. You can see ask where Purim is in history, in the books of Ezra, Nehemiah, what happens during the time. The Purim probably gave a push towards going back and continuing to build Jerusalem. And obviously, if you connect to Israel, so Torah is also very, very much tied in Israel, as we see from the
Mm.
Ramban and other poskim. But now we're in Pesach. Also Pesach, by the way, I think I mentioned that in the past, the Tosfot in the beginning of Masechet Pesachim, I think it's in Daf Gimel, that says that people who don't live in Israel don't have the obligation of coming to it, coming to Jerusalem and bringing the Korban Pesach, bringing the sacrifice of Pesach. We usually see Pesach on Aliyah Regel. Everyone comes. Doesn't matter where you live. You live in Israel. You live in New York. You live in Babel. You live in Syria. Wherever you live, you need to come to Israel and come to Jerusalem. It seems from Tosfot, and we won't go into it now, that if someone doesn't live in Israel, he doesn't have the obligation. Maybe he can come, but he's not obligated to come and bring Korban Pesach. You need to be part of the nation in order to bring Korban Pesach. If you aren't in Israel, maybe you don't have enough of a tie or connection to the nation, so a person isn't obligated to bring a Korban Pesach. So that explains also why didn't the nation bring Korban Pesach in the 40 years when they were in the desert. They brought Korban Pesach when they're around Mount Sinai. As you mentioned,
Mm.
Mount Sinai has some aspect of Kedushat Eretz Israel in it. And for 39 years, they didn't bring Korban Pesach. So it's true, they had babies who didn't do a Brit Milah, but there were many adults who did a Brit Milah. So why couldn't the adults bring Korban Pesach? Only after they come to Israel, only then they bring Korban Pesach. That maybe supports Tosfot. That
Mm.
a wider. So back to the halachot of Pesach. So the halachot of Pesach, we mentioned 30 days before Pesach already, is an obligation which connects us to Pesach. Now read just a short halacha from Siman Taf Lamed Vav, 436 in Shulchan Aruch. Says the Shulchan Aruch, המפרש מיבשה לים, someone who's going now on a ship for a long distance. או יוצא בשיירה. In those days, moving from country to country wasn't a matter of just of a few hours or plane ticket. It was a long, like today, you get stuck. There's no planes. How do you go? You take a bus from here to there, and a camel and a horse. It takes a long time, and there's no one at home to check for chametz. And he says if he's leaving in 30 days of Pesach from Purim and on, you need to check for chametz. If he leaves
Mm.
before 30 days, he doesn't need to check chametz unless he'll be back before Pesach. And if he's planning to come back before Pesach, then you should check just in case he won't get back on time. But you can see that 30 days before Pesach, we're already part of Pesach, we're already connected to Pesach, we're already getting to prepared for Pesach, and now we are also getting prepared for Pesach by learning about Chametz. And I'm not sure if you learned in the past about Bdikat Chametz, about Mechirat Chametz, or about selling Chametz. So we will learn today a bit about selling chametz, and as I mentioned in the WhatsApp, our class today will be shorter since I have need to go to another meeting. So mechirat chametz, okay, mechirat chametz, mideoraita, from deoraita, a person if he has chametz at home, it's enough to nullify the chametz, and that's it. If you have a whole barrel of whiskey, or you have, I don't know, a huge packet of grains or whatever, it's enough to do bitul chametz, and that's it. You say, the chametz, from my perspective, isn't mine. It's hefker, whatever it is. I don't want it anymore. Mevatlo belibo v'dayo. That is from the Oraita perspective. And that really actually makes sense when you think about it, because how would um, if someone makes whiskey, he lives in Israel, he doesn't have any non-Jewish neighbors. What will he do with it? If someone has a whole bigger boxes and boxes of grain. Okay, so maybe the grain aren't chametz. And it's true that a few months after Pesach, he will already be able to harvest the new wheat. But if some of it is chametz, what does he do? What does he do with it? So midiraita mevatzlo belibo vedayo. It's enough to be mevatel in the heart the chametz, to nullify the chametz. And although from the Torah we have a mitzvah of tashbitu seor mibatechem, an active mitzvah of to make sure there's no chametz in your house, tashbitu seor mibatechem. And we also have two negative mitzvot of bal yira'eh uval yimatzeh. Chametz shouldn't be found in your house during Pesach, but that's only if the chametz belongs to you. And as soon as a person nullifies chametz, it doesn't belong to him anymore. Perhaps we can find a hint to it in the language of the pasuk. I'll read you the pasuk. Okay, I'll read you the pasuk in Shmot. The pasuk says, "Shiv'at yamim matzot tochelu." 7 days you should be eating matzah. Ach bayom harishon, just before the first day, tashbitu seor mibatechem. You should nullify chametz from your house. Ki kol ochel machmetz. Everyone who eats chametz, so there's a sin here of karet. Okay, sin of karet. And the Torah uses here the term of tashbitu. Tashbitu. What does tashbitu mean? Tashbitu, the Targum Onkelos. Onkelos is one of the earliest commentaries we have on the Torah. And he says, Tevatlun, chamira mibadechon. Tevatlun means to nullify. So the Torah doesn't tell us burn chametz or take the chametz and throw it out of your house. From the Torah perspective, it's enough to nullify the chametz, and that's enough. But I think as we learned in the past, our sages were concerned, since chametz is such an important mitzvah on one hand, and also another reason is we always eat chametz. So I see a cake, I'll take a piece of cake. I see some snack, I'll take a cracker. And if one sees chametz in his house during Pesach, first he might eat it, and that's a very severe sin. And second, he might say he is nullifying the chametz, but he's not really nullifying the chametz. He's just saying he's nullifying the chametz, and therefore he'll be over on the two or three sins from the Torah. As we said, there's bal yireh or bal imatzeh, which are negative. The person shouldn't do it, and tashbitu, an active thing of a person should nullify chametz from his house. Therefore, Chazal insisted that chametz will be checked and taken out of the house. Okay, but that's a rabbinical law. And understanding it's a rabbinical law helps us when we go and learn about mechirat chametz, about selling chametz. And originally in the times of Chazal, a person could tell a non-Jewish, his neighbor, I have chametz, take it and take it out of my house. Or he could tell him, look, there's now a big sale of chametz, buy for yourself, and there's a chance, maybe I'll also buy for me. Okay, maybe I'll buy for me. So he's not really selling it to the non-Jewish person like as a fiction. He's actually taking it out of his house and giving it to the non-Jewish person. Or he's telling him, buy for yourself, and maybe I will also buy from you after Pesach, when the non-Jewish person knows that he will buy from him, but it's not, it's a maybe, okay? Perhaps I'll buy, maybe yes, maybe not. He doesn't know. Therefore, there's no problem in that. A few hundred years ago, mainly in Ashkenaz, mainly in Europe, Jews, one of the main works they had was selling yash. Yash. What's yash? Yash stands for yain saruf, burnt wine. Okay, burnt wine, perhaps something like the whiskey we have today. Okay, you have barrels and you burn the wine. Okay, you burn the wine, you evaporate it, and so on. So that they used to sell yash, and that's chametz. Okay, that's chametz. And now a person can't sell everything he has to the non-Jewish neighbor, because then maybe the non-Jewish neighbor will drink everything from him. He won't have anything left. He won't be able to continue. That could happen in some places. He won't be able to continue his business, and people will go will go become poor. So what did they do? And then people started selling chametz more or less in the way we have today. So people started selling chametz. As more people started selling chametz, so we start getting more questions. What happened if a person forgot to sell chametz? What happened if and if? So we have, if you can, Shulchan Aruch, we have a long Sha'arei Tshuva on about mechirat chametz. What do you do in all different cases? He sold, and he didn't sell. He had a bottle left out. He sold, asked someone to sell for him. Since it wasn't so, everyone did it in his own way. So Rabbi started organizing mechirat chametz, and it became more organized, and that brought quite a few questions. It brought questions. And my battery is almost gone. It brought questions about the legal way of doing it. Does it actually, is it valid? And besides the question of is it valid or not valid, there's another question: is it ha'arama? Are we tricking here the law? Are you finding here a loophole in the law? So, so some of the reasons which are brought, usually when you sell something, especially in big quantities, you pay tax. But here you don't pay tax. Usually when you sell something, you take it out of your house. Here you don't take it out of your house. Many things which look like ha'arama. Today, the rabbinate is in charge of mechirat chametz, and therefore they try to do it in the best way they can, in the also legally and also halachically. So today we try to do mechirat chametz, same as other tricks we have, heter like heter mechira, for the sabbatical year for Shemitah, we try to do it in the best way possible. Okay, there were problems in the past. Is it considered selling to the non-Jewish person? Is it not considered selling to the non-Jewish person? Today, halachically, we make sure it will be in the best way that it can be, that we sell it to the non-Jewish person. The way it works, and that's important, understanding it. People ask me sometimes if they can sell the chametz to me, and I will sell it to the non-Jewish person. So we don't sell the chametz to the rabbi. Okay, what we do is we ask the rabbi to be our shaliach, as if our messenger, in selling the chametz to the non-Jewish person. And that's important just to understand what we're doing. It's also better that everyone who sells his chametz should read and see what it says there. Okay, what it says there, so he'll know to understand what he's doing. But a person isn't selling his chametz to the rabbi. He's asking the rabbi or the rabbinate to be a messenger, a shaliach, to sell his chametz. And the rabbi will do it in the best way they can.
Mhm.
While selling the chametz, and maybe today it's even easier than in the past, today some people buy a car. I have a friend who bought a car on the internet. Okay, a car, how much it cost? I'm not sure how much it cost. 100,000 shekels. He bought it on the internet. Okay, so people today buy big things, okay, big things, just with a few clicks. And we, as a culture, we consider that as mechira, as selling. Obviously, selling a few small things by signing something that, or using the internet, obviously that is acceptable. So today we accept that as a mechira. And when we sign today on the mechirat chametz of the rabbinot, rather it's by paper or online, we are not selling the chametz to the rabbi. We are not selling the chametz to the non-Jewish person. We are just asking the rabbinate to sell the chametz in our name. What should we make sure when we sell chametz? First is to write down your address in an accurate way. If you write it down by hand, so make sure you write it down in a readable way that the non-Jewish person can theoretically, if he wants to, he can come to your house and take the chametz. Because selling the chametz is built on the idea that the non-Jewish person pays a small amount just at the beginning. Okay, he doesn't buy the chametz for 200 shekels. He pays just the beginning. And then if he wants to come the chametz, so to take the chametz, he can come to wherever he wants to come and pay the full price of it or whatever the price it is, and then take the chametz. But he needs to be able to go to the house and take the chametz. And he also needs to be able to know where the chametz is. Okay, so you should write down in the paper where the chametz is, in the kitchen, in the corner, okay, in the corner. Or what I do many times, I write in the house, in places which all I mark. And then if a non-Jewish person comes to my house, he sees on the cabinets, he'll see chametz, and he nimkar legoy, sold to a non-Jewish person. And that's how the non-Jewish person will know that's If he wants to, he can take it and pay me the chametz. So it needs the non-Jewish person should have an option to come and get the chametz, obviously if he pays. Okay, so that's important to know about mechirat chametz. Many people ask, what can you sell from mechirat chametz? Can you rely on it? Can't you rely on it? Okay, so on one hand, we said it looks like ha'arama, it looks like finding a loophole on one hand. On the other hand, we mentioned the forbidden provision we have today is the Isur de Rabbanan, it's a rabbinical. Because in any case, each one of us does bitul chametz, and we nullify the chametz. And as soon as we nullify the chametz, whatever is left in our house now, it's rabbinical. In rabbinical mitzvot, we are a bit more lenient with loopholes. Okay, we're a bit more lenient. And here it's not really a real loophole because we said the rabbinate tries to make sure the selling of the chametz will be done in the best way possible. So it might seem like ha'arama, it might seem like a loophole, but if you talk about legally it's 100%, and people use loopholes all the time. I just saw an advertisement, I think it was 2 days ago, I saw an advertisement about married couples as if separating in order to do things with tax. I didn't go into it. I think it's not so moral, but people will find loopholes in the law, and in order to do things which are 100% legal, and that's also for Mechirat Chametz, it's 100% legal, and you can rely on Mechirat Chametz. For sure, after Pesach, you can rely on Mechirat Chametz, and if something was sold by Mechirat Chametz, for sure you can eat it. Okay, so if it's sold Mechirat Chametz, you can eat it. A question is, what should you sell? Can you sell everything or not? And here the answer is, so lechatchila, to sell everything, we say, if you have a big amounts, big quantities, so sell it. If you have just small quantities, so don't sell it, finish it, throw it out. What's big quantities and what's small quantities? It depends from person and from time to time. Okay, so some people to throw 50 shekels worth of pasta or whatever it is, it's a big quantity. And for someone else, 200 shekels, it's a small quantity. So it really depends. It's a very individual question. Another question you can ask about the time. I'm not sure now we're in such a time of a war and feel that the lack, Baruch Hashem, Israel, state of Israel is a strong state, a strong country, Baruch Hashem. But maybe if the war continues until Pesach, people will say, 1 second, I'm not sure what I'll find in the shop afterwards, so maybe I should keep the two packets of pasta in the beginning of the war. Many people felt that they gathered so much food because of the war. Now throwing it out will give them a feeling of too much a loss, although maybe the money, the worth of money isn't so big, but the times of a war and feeling uncertain. So it really depends on the time and the person, and there's nothing to ask a rabbi about it. It depends on you. If you feel it's a big thing, so keep it and sell it, and there's no problem in selling it. If it's a small thing, so don't sell it, and that's better. There's other things which you can be a bit more makel by selling, and that is whiskey. Okay, whiskey. Some people will say, well, a bottle of whiskey is worth a lot of money, so obviously I can sell it. Another reason for whiskey, and we don't want to go into it now, there's a question, a debate in halacha how to view whiskey. Is it chametz gamur? Is it mamash chametz? Or it's a bit easier than chametz gamur? And therefore, since there's a debate about how to view whiskey in the terms of chametz, you can sell whiskey. One more halacha before we conclude. Do you need to sell pots? Okay, so some people will say the pots are sold to the non-Jewish person. And the answer is, do not sell your pots. Okay, do not sell your pots. The Chatam Sofer and many other poskim write that if a person sells his pots, he needs to toivel his pots after Pesach, like any other pot that belonged to a non-Jewish person, and you buy it from him, you need to toivel it. So the Chatam Sofer says, and many other poskim, that if you sold your pots to a non-Jewish person, you need to toivel it after Pesach. So do not sell your pots. Some are more makel, and some say you do not need to toivel it, but many poskim say that you do need to toivel it. Some have a trick. Okay, fine. I won't sell the pots. I will just sell the chametz that is absorbed in the pots. Okay, the chametz which is absorbed in the pots. And that's also a problem. Why is that a problem? You make it look like a joke. No non-Jewish person, no person at all probably, wants to go to your house and to buy the chametz which is absorbed in the pots. As is, Mechirat Chametz, we're a bit stretching the being here lenient. No one wants to buy chametz which is absorbed in your pots, so there's no point of selling it. And also, there's no point of selling it because there's no halachic problem in having chametz which is absorbed in your pot. The whole problem with chametz in the halacha, it's called chametz be'ain or mamashut chametz. Actual chametz, you can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, you can pick it up. Maybe according to some poskim, it needs to have a measurement of a kazait. But if it's just a flavor of chametz which is stuck to the dishes, there's no problem of having that on Pesach. And therefore, you shouldn't sell your pots, you shouldn't sell your dishes, and you should not sell also chametz which is absorbed in your pots. So if you want to summarize it, you can trust mechirat chametz. Treat it in a serious way. If you have just small quantities, you shouldn't sell it to a non-Jewish person. But if you have big quantities, so you can sell it to a non-Jewish person, and also after Pesach, you can buy things that were sold to a non-Jewish person. And with that, we will conclude. And although it's still a month from Pesach, but we'll wish to everyone Pesach kasher v'sameach. Have a great beginning and learning towards Pesach.